Hello everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Mood Booster podcast.
Welcome. We are so happy you're here and back with us. Thank you so much. Just a quick one. Thank you so much for all of the lovely comments, feedback, and everything and just general love on episode 1. We've seen and heard all of it, and welcome more of it. We're just loving soaking ourselves in all of that admiration and love and all of the things and shared experience. So
thank you for all the feedback. It's been amazing. In this episode, we're going to go into who we are, give you guys a little bit more context. It's our favourite topic, as you'll very, very quickly see. We just talk a little bit about who we are, give some more context to the people behind the Mood Booster podcast. In full transparency, as you guys hopefully know by now, what we're trying to do with this podcast is be as real and authentic and share our true selves. Something that I personally am still learning to do. It's not the easiest thing I've always found. My part, saying about who I am, this is the second take in here, just for full transparency. I just, wanted to make sure that you guys got the most authentic version of who I was, because that's what we're trying to do here, the most real version. Again, as I mentioned, it's something I'm still learning to do, but for what we're trying to do here, I think setting an example for not only everyone, but myself. I want to make sure I'm as real as possible and authentic, and leaning into really how I can share that. And again, it's something I'm still learning, but hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, good for you. You're very harsh on yourself, and you're beating yourself up after recording one. But I also admire the fact that you wanted to go, be more detailed with your reflections and your life. Naturally, it's something that is difficult to do and share. You're not, but very much yesterday a case of stop beating yourself up and be kinder to yourself. But we are here, and we're really excited to deliver episode 2. Just to say, we are intentionally. We've always set out episode 1 and 2 will always be introductory. We're so happy that you're all so keen to hear us actually talking about our topics. From next week, we very much straight away get into that. But just episode 1 and 2, we wanted to sit with context, just introducing ourselves, and we felt that was really important to do. So we hope you enjoy. Thank you for being here. And
thanks,
make sure, comment, like all the things.
Enjoy the episode. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to the second episode of the Mood Booster podcast. We launched on Monday. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Great to have you all here.
Every time I do this, I just get giddy.
This is, for a bit of context, I think I started the first episode like that. We haven't recorded in some time. We've been busy with everything, and it's nice to finally be sat down, I think, and just be doing it again.
Really, really lovely, actually. And I know our listeners and viewers have as well been enjoying the marketing content, us in the streets of London, interviewing people, us around different parks of London with our microphones, just having fun, being silly. And that's been great, but we've also been itching to get back. We have
been. I think a lot of people have been like, where's the podcast? When's it dropping? What are you doing with those videos? Why aren't you dropping it? And now it's launched. We're back to, as Chaos I said, the thick of it. And
we're back, baby.
We're now in it, recording. So today's episode, we'll give you a quick brief introduction. We're talking about our favourite topics, us, who we are. Talking about who we are, giving you guys, if you don't know us, a little bit more of an introduction into who we are. And that's mainly it, I think. Just really talking and giving you some more context behind the faces and the people behind the Mood Booster podcast.
We wanted these first 2 episodes to be very introductory intentionally. We planned the first one to be an introduction to the podcast, what the Mood Booster podcast is, what its pillars are, and kind of how it was conceived, which we did well, I'd like to say.
Yeah, completely.
And then round 2 is getting to know us, because we figure you want to know who you're listening to, and I know a lot of and what we do know is a lot of ourselves and our values will just show through what we do and not what we say, or just how we are. But it's still nice to just have a little introduction, get acquainted with one another.
Welcome. Lovely to meet you guys.
Lovely. So nice to meet you.
It's good to meet you.
Honestly, I feel like it's been forever in the making.
Where have we been? Where have you guys been?
Where have you
took
been?
you so long? Where have you been?
Yeah, where have you been? So that's what we're going to do today. We also have very much appreciated feedback from the first episode.
We've been asking a lot of people, a lot of friends and family, like, what do you think? And I think from what I've gathered, there's been overall feedback has been fantastic. People
phenomenal,
seem to like it a lot, which is great to hear. Very, very supportive. We are going to take on the feedback. I think something that I think what you were probably going to say about the highs and lows. Shall I let you carry on with that?
Oh yeah. Well, towards the end we do our weekly mood boost, and some feedback was that yeah, I guess I'll say now. I was gonna bring it up at the end, but I think it's important just on the top to say our intention with the weekly mood boost is very much to bring to life the fact that we're trying to find joy in the tiny moments of life, because we often, and a big part of this podcast is we're so caught up with trying to chase the highs that we miss those tiny little moments. And in trying to chase those highs, I guess on a larger scale, we kind of lack the ability to be present in the moment, or sometimes miss that ability or miss that opportunity to be present in the moment. So in having those weekly mood boosts and really us reinforcing, we really want to just hear whatever it is, whether you've made your bed this morning or you smelt a nice bit of coffee, as simple as that. That's what we really wanted to wait.
For those who aren't watching, we are sniffing our coffee as we speak. So
for the listeners, we're sniffing our very nice coffees. No, sorry. We wanted to reinforce that it's not you've got engaged, you've got a new job, and those things are great, and we will shout those out as well, and we want to. But we also want to celebrate the I guess quote unquote small moments, or the everyday moments, because that's really important. And the last thing we want to do is to make people feel like inferior or rubbish because they don't have a weekly mood boost, or
it's all about the small
they feel like they don't have a great grand celebration. And that's it's not a great grand celebration every week. We certainly don't have those every week. So
so I think we'll be getting onto our more normal mood boost later on. But regardless,
before we start our introductions,
how's your week, Marcus?
Thank you.
How's your week?
Beat me to it. I must admit, probably one of the best weeks of my life. I'm not gonna lie. Not going straight.
I was about to say that is not a good segue. Guys, it's all about the little things. I've had a fantastic week.
But it's okay. They're both a reality, and I've had many weeks when I don't have that. But right now is probably one of the best weeks of my life, and I'm elated, and I'm really, really trying to be here in this moment at every second. And I was saying to you yesterday, it's going so well, and I'm so happy with all of it that I'm kind of like, it's going too fast, like stop, slow down. But I mean, that's a blessing and a beauty, that if something's that nice that you're not wanting it to pass by, that's a lovely place to be. But yeah, I guess my week, we're recording on a Wednesday. We released the podcast 2 days ago, and it's just been a shower of lovely feedback, lovely comments. And as you probably gathered from last week's episode, this is something that both of us are extremely passionate about. And like we've already mentioned, of course, we love our jobs and all those other things, and our friends, our family, and everything in our lives, but both of us just feel extremely fulfilled and passionate about this project. So to see it sort of, to put so much work into something, and then to see it come to life, and
it's lovely, isn't it?
It, I guess, be out there and receive the feedback.
To be reality and like a tangible thing is
so cool.
From an idea, I think the most beautiful thing I've seen, just to carry on what you're saying, seeing something from an idea to a reality is a very lovely thing. I think it's creation through life force, and that is beautiful.
And the pride that sits with that as well, right?
So this was nothing else. This just came from action only. And it's beautiful that is just spawned from a thought or an idea and then action. It's a very, very proud moment.
And it's lovely because I'm not someone who often... I struggle with that sort of feeling proud about achievements and internalizing when I've done something well. And I think this is a moment where I'm just fully sitting with that pride, and I'm like, so I've done this, and we've done this, and it's fully our work and nothing else beyond our grit and determination.
That's good.
And it's not like, we're out there on the battlefields or whatever, but we have still been working hard.
We are not on the battlefields, and we are two guys in a room recording a podcast.
Our grit and determination, our blood, sweat and tears.
We're in the trenches, bro.
Through the absolute trenches. Those 4 hours sleep nights are real hard.
I know my mate Seb listening to this is like, you don't know pain.
It's all relative.
Different sort
Seb,
of pain.
So, with respect.
Yeah.
All right, Cheryl Cole. For the listener challenge to the lovely little salute there, but it was
quite fighting for love salute.
Quite Cheryl Cole-esque.
There you
go. So yeah, that's kind of, I know you've carried on from that, but that's my week, and I'm just really happy, proud of myself, proud of us, proud of this, and
as you should be.
Also grateful, I think, gratitude. I know we asked each other, actually, maybe this is something nice to share. We asked each other on launch evening when we were moving you in house.
Yes.
I don't know if you're going to talk about that, but when we're moving your house, we asked each other, what's 3 feelings you're feeling right now on the end of launch day? Or 2, I think it was. And my 2 were glee and gratitude, and I think just pride as well, which I've already mentioned. But the glee thing is like, I often feel happy and elated and all those things, but I think glee is a very specific feeling that I have and hadn't had in a long time.
How would you differentiate glee from joy?
For me, glee is like the visceral excitement, and like I feel like a child. Like, and so I'd get a message from a friend or a colleague or whatever, and before I had even thought about it, my body was reacting. Like I was like literally
it's so
jumping.
internally.
I wasn't jumping up and down, but my arms were like flailing like with excitement, and it was just what was that?
Kicking your feet on the bed,
literally. And it's that sort of like pure, just happiness that's like it's a glee, and I just felt gleeful, and that was lovely. And then the pride as well. It's really really
that
lovely.
is lovely.
Yeah. So what about you? How's your week been?
How's my week been? I'm gonna take a moment. I think it's been a weird one. I was on a call to my mum yesterday afternoon, and I think for me the expectation of what I had the week to feel like versus what it has felt like has been slightly different. I know if we're talking about what we were saying on the launch day or launch eve about what we were feeling, about everything, I think my answer was pride, fulfillment, and a bit of suspense as well. Fulfillment from just having this idea and just every day acting on it, and then forcing this thing to be created. That's such a fulfilling feeling.
Yeah.
Like, it's so beautiful, and it's only come from us. No one else has given anything. It's completely off of our own backs. I think the suspense is, as I mentioned, knowing that there's so much more to do, and knowing that what we've got here is we're just scratching the surface, and so it's just the beginning, and so it's like an anticipation, a feeling of anticipation almost. But in terms of my week for this, I think there's been so much flying around the shop recently with me moving flats a couple times recently. Obviously, we did the Rome Marathon a couple of weekends ago. I think my brain's been so...
Sorry, 1 second. Guys, since you last heard us...
just drop that little nugget in there. Little nugget of gold.
A little bit of a spice. We ran the Rome Marathon. I know don't want to interrupt you, and I want you to carry on.
Just have interrupted me.
But I just want to say,
Charlie
ran a marathon, his first marathon in 3 hours, 44 minutes, and what? Tell him.
55 seconds, yeah. 55 seconds. I'm not sure if I would have run it if I couldn't tell people that I've run it.
Yeah.
Massive thing, so.
It was so funny. I did the Sheffield Marathon, half marathon the week after, and I texted Charlie like, no one here knows that I ran a marathon last week.
The whole week following the marathon, I was just walking around being like, no one here knows who I am and what I've done. This is a god amongst mere mortals. These people not know who they're in the presence of, regardless.
Sorry.
It's fine. I expect a written apology on my desk in the morning, but it's fine.
I'll get that out to you.
So yeah, ran that a couple of weeks ago, and I think with everything just flying around, all these big things typically, a big move or a big race, a big trip, and then a big launch, I would have felt I expected to feel these huge spikes of really high feelings, but for me it's been a little bit more monotone than I would have expected. But I think for me, if I'm really reflecting on the process of what this led up to, for me, those massive surges of glee, as you were saying, was actually from the process of doing it. So when we had that weekend in Leeds doing the marketing shoot, I don't know why, but I hold such a feeling of fondness that, like, we were in Bradford of all places. Nothing against Bradford, we love our Bradfordians, but
big up Bradford,
big up Bradfordians, but it's not been a place, so it's been on my bucket list for a while. But it was such an amazing weekend just because of what we were doing and the feeling of no one knew what we were doing, but just the creation there was amazing. And so I think the expectations of what this week should have felt like compared to how it did was a bit different.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not going to judge myself for not feeling a certain way at all.
Not at all.
I mean, I'm obviously glad it's out and glad we're doing this as well, but my expectations were a little bit different to how I'm actually feeling. So.
Well, I think there's something to speak to that about, and I know one of our episodes will go into this like in full detail, and it's not all we're here to do today, but there's something that's very much what we're trying to sort of overcome here, right? Is expectations and living for a moment and living for a big achievement and a big crescendo when like we're saying, it's the process and it's the everyday and it's all of those smaller things that add up. And yes, there's this sort of this tangible product here that is this end goal, in this instance like a release date, but actually all of the memories and all of the joy and all of the happiness is in all of those things that lead up to that. And yes, this is worth celebrating and it's brilliant, but every piece of that puzzle that's led to that moment is worth celebrating and is brilliant and is something that you're holding with like deep fondness. And that's it's really and yeah, I know you're saying you're not judging yourself for having that disparity between your expectations and how you're feeling, but it might actually be really nice that is something that is your reality, because it's allowing you to sort of reinforce what we're trying to do anyway. Is
No,
sort
completely.
Of be present.
I think leading onto that, I think such a big thing that I've learned, over the past couple of years, or even recently, it's just been reinforced, is how important it is to just be as present as possible.
Yeah.
The only moment that is the reality is as of right now.
Yeah.
The future, the past, they're all preconceptions or misconceptions. They're not real. They are real as and when you come to them, but the only moment which is real is the present. And I think with something as big as launch day, or this big week, which you and I have held in our minds for so long.
Yeah.
My mind's been in this space of the future and what the launch day would look like for a while now. So rather than being present moment, so when I was in the launch day, I was actually comparing how I felt 4 weeks ago to expect launch day to feel, rather than just being in the moment as well. I'm not perfect at it. I think the more mindful I can be, the better, but I'm not going to judge myself for not being mindful in some situations. If that makes sense.
It definitely does. It's funny that I think I also had expectations of how it would go and how it would be. But I think part of me was kind of just however it goes is incredible.
The best thing it can do, because that's the only way it can go.
Yeah, and I think I'm someone who's kind of been used to, or for whatever reason, I am just, this present situation is what is presented to me. Therefore, let's make the most of it. And I'm not saying this at all has been bad, but I kind of, what I'm saying is I'm kind of malleable and adaptive in that way. So yes, a month ago I might have been like, oh well, huge launch party, all of these things, PR, whatever, and that very much didn't happen. But like in my mind, in this present moment, I'm like, however this is happening, it's happening, and this is amazing and it's beautiful, and I truly have no qualms if it looked any different.
I think the most beautiful thing is seeing, as you've mentioned, people who just show affection and show they're actually watching and listening to it. It isn't, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm the most self-doubtful person, but for me, even when, I think it was Monday morning, I walked into the office and I was talking to someone else, and Rachel, one of my colleagues, before she even saw me, heard me and was like, come on, launch day, let's go. I was like, what? I spoke to her and she only listened to about a half an hour before I even walked in, and I was like, this is fantastic. So for me, it's not the launch day, or it isn't the launch party or the massive things. It's someone taking time out of their day to say that, hey, I've given it a listen and I think it's great. Or even though I think you can improve on that or this. The fact that they're listening, I think, is such a cool thing.
A question I have is, which I didn't realise. I knew before that you sort of had a mismatch between expectations and how you actually felt. Has the way I've sort of been feeling, or sharing my expression of emotion in terms of being like gleeful and like just pure elation, has that had any sort of impact on how you're feeling, or your interpretation of your emotions, or making you feel a certain way?
I don't think you feeling a certain way has made me doubt my own self more, if that's what you're alluding to.
Good, yeah. I think that's what I was wondering, because
it hasn't.
If I was feeling a certain way and then the person next to me, especially when it's a shared accomplishment, was like, this is amazing, whatever, I could easily see myself being like,
why am I not feeling like that?
Yeah, and I didn't want that to be the case, and so I was just checking in, I guess.
No, obviously, thank you for asking. I think I'm quite good at, if I do toot my own horn, knowing my own feelings are different from someone else's, 100%. Because we've got different experiences. We're on different life paths, and everything we've done in our lives lead up to how we feel in that moment as well, for our own experiences. So I don't think I was sat in that moment being like, oh, Marcus is so gleeful, why am I not feeling gleeful? I don't think I was quite feeling like that. I think it was more me building up such an idea of the launch day in my own head 3, 4, 2 weeks prior, being like, oh my God, this day's going to feel like this, and that. When I get to the day, instead of being present and just, thinking that, I was trying to compare it back to how I thought I'd feel. Which is, in itself, something to look at.
Yeah.
But overall,
ultimately, you still felt
ultimately, like I'm saying all of this because I'm probably being quite hard to try and peel it away. Ultimately, it's been an absolutely wicked week.
Yeah.
Full of excitement. It's been non-stop this entire week, and this entire 2-3 months has been non-stop, and I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so fun how busy it's been. But,
oh my word.
Yeah, you've just moved west as well. So,
I have. I'm now a West Londonian. I am over
big up West London.
You know,
we're not getting into an east-west debate this morning.
Saying goodbye to my east homies over there.
But that was
the home slew over in east.
Good old. I do
the home slices. The home slew.
Yeah, the home.
Plural for home slice.
Right. Oh, nice.
Home slew.
God, every day's a school day. The home slew.
Every day's a learning lesson.
I might go get some slew of bread downstairs. Is that the same thing? Am I using that badly?
Who are you? Who are you?
Marcus, nice. Dr. Marcus Paul, nice to meet you. What's your name?
I have no idea. Oh. I've got split personality disorder.
Okay, that's not.
Is that funny?
No, that's not funny.
We shouldn't joke about that.
I was laughing at something else, but anyway.
Anyway, so speaking of Dr. Marcus Paul, do you wanna? I'm great at these segues, guys. One thing you'll learn, I'm a little seguer. In terms of who you are, we can date back to the day that you were conceived. Who is Marcus?
No, thank you.
Maybe not that. For the listeners, for everyone who knows of you or thinks they know of you from your social pages or from seeing you, how do we segue into who you are?
Okay.
Where do we want to start?
So now we're going to take some time, I guess, talking about me.
I think so.
Not my favourite activity, but
I'm really interested. Guys, skip ahead to minute 25 to hear about me. No, it'll be
yeah.
Do not
skip
in 1 minute. Skip over to minute 22.
Shortest episode. Hi, Marcus. Okay, bye. Your turn. I'm Charlie. See ya. Lovely episode. Great.
We've got to end.
Okay, cool. So my turn. Yeah. My name's Marcus. Hi, nice to meet you. I did just clarify it was Dr. Marcus Paul, but that's jumping way far later down the line of the timeline of my life, I guess. I'm in my late 20s. If we're talking demographics, I grew up in the Cotswolds, a beautiful place to grow up. Very privileged growing up there. Had a lovely childhood with my parents and my 3 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 4 boys, which people are often like, oh my God, that's like, crazy. Firstly, how did your mum do that? And just your parents are crazy. But we just had a lovely time. Yeah. I'm quite significantly younger. They were all quite close in age. I'm not significantly younger, but they're closer in age. And then there's 4 years between me and George, who's the next brother up. But yeah, just like normal childhood, as you would expect. Just playing around in the fields, had lovely big gardens where we just mess around. Like memories of Dad would. One year it was really exciting. Dad got I don't know why this memory's come to my mind. Got the sit-on lawnmower. So like one year, like it was a huge exciting thing because we didn't have loads of money growing up. Like my mum was is a freelance hairdresser, and my dad worked sort of an IT tech firm, and was like a technician, and so one year was a huge thing. We got to sit on lawnmower, and I just a memory came back of my brothers and I just like think it was the most exciting thing in the world, just like zipping around in the garden on the sit-on lawnmower, thinking like big boy. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. But so that was my sort of childhood. My parents divorced when I was around 11, 12, and then moved around once or twice through that. Just again, I guess my parents divorcing. I know I'm not sort of taking away my experience by saying what I'm about to say, but I know that that's something that a lot of people go through, and I don't feel personally, maybe I haven't been introspective enough up to this point in my life, but where I have tried to be, I don't feel like that's like massively impacted or adversely impacted my trajectory or my life or anything like that. Being honest, I feel like I dealt with it well and have been able to be resilient to that, which I know a lot of other people aren't, and that's also okay. But that was I guess just a reality of my background, and something to mention. I was, I guess, an average student at school. I wasn't very nice at some stages, which I do hold a lot of like remorse for, and there are certain people who like come to my mind of like where I wouldn't. I guess if I'm being honest, I would pick on them, and that's not really nice.
Wow.
But like, I was bullied as well, and I feel like there's a product of that, and also just like
looking back now, can you see that was a product of you being insecure?
Yeah, and maybe this isn't their experience, but I never in that moment felt like I was truly like bullying them. It was more like jibing and like winding up like the youngest sibling sort of thing. But even still, regardless, I don't really love that about like when I was 14, and I do like remember that, and I know that those people, like even those people since then, like we became really good friends, so like you know, whatever, but it's something that I still just, you know, was part of there. And I in school was, I guess, not an average student. I always say I'm an average sort of in every, I guess it's a self-deprecating thing. Yeah, I know. I literally distinctly remember having like one of those careers counselling things. And I was like, oh, I'm just an average student. And the careers counsellor was like, well, the average GCSEs in this country are like 2 Cs and 3 Ds or something. So I think you with your 10 A's and
you got 10 A's.
So I can't.
So you're not. An
I know
student.
it's so stupid.
Right, okay, so you're lying to our listeners. How are they going to believe anything we say?
No, it wasn't 10 A's. It was
waffling.
5 A's and 6 B's.
That's
and a couple of distinctions or A stars or whatever at GCSE. I mean, anyway, we're talking about GCSEs. This is a bit mundane.
Stuff in the podcast.
No, GCSEs are very important for anyone in the education sector out there, which I kind of am anyway. So yeah, I then did my A levels. Had two notable, lots of amazing, but two notable amazing teachers who like just absolutely changed my sort of trajectory, I think. And I think everyone might have that sort of teacher who, when you ask, that comes back to them. Yeah, one of them's Jeremy Johnson. He's just recently retired, actually, so congratulations on the retirement. And
should we get him on the podcast?
Yeah, we could do, actually. He was my psychology A-level teacher.
Unreal.
Absolutely phenomenal
First
bloke.
guest inbound.
And Sharan Giles, who was my English teacher from GCSE all the
Giles.
way through. Both of those teachers just like, it's the kind of holistic teaching. They're more teaching you about life and how to just be a human. They treat you like a human, and you know, Jeremy Johnson taught so much about like critical thinking and thinking beyond just like what's on the page, and not only academically but just in life as well, and just so much from them, to the point where I was like, okay, psychology is where I want to go. And I did psychology at undergraduate, University of Southampton. Big up Sutton. Charlie's
awful.
Oh dear.
If you ask me, it's not my university of choice.
It's a bone of contention we hold between us. Just Charlie went to Plymouth.
It's a lot of people like, ugh. I've got experience of that, but
no,
it's better than Southampton for what I studied, at least. But it's better than Southampton for what I studied, at least.
That's not what ChatGPT told us when we had a debate about it.
Outdated,
but
okay.
Anyway. So yeah, I did psychology at the University of Southampton while I was there. Had quite a fun, normal university experience. Went out, did all those sorts of things. Joined mixed lacrosse.
Classic.
One thing about me is, even though I'm on a 1,500 day run streak, I was that kid who was awful at sport. I have a lot of like internalized sort of feelings of inferiority or whatever the word is. Okay. So like I would just tell myself I was rubbish before I'd even give it a go, like at football, rugby, all those things. So as such, my older brother George, really good at sports, like incredible at sports, and the PE teachers all loved him. So when I came to school, they were like, "Oh, bully!" Like George's brother instantly put me in top set of PE because of that. And then like the year later, they were like, "We're gonna move you down."
They were all in the office. What have valid? Done to themselves?
Yeah, valid.
I think brotherhoods definitely breed that sort of real competitive nature. But if you're not up to the same par as one of the brothers, it's really hard to handle that. Yeah. You know, I don't know how my younger brothers do it with me. With me being such an overachiever, I really feel for them.
Felix and Jude. What a hard life.
To those guys. Hopefully they make it one day.
But yeah, no, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I was rubbish I said I was rubbish at sports, and like it just felt really awful. But then when I went to uni, I was like, okay, well, let me try this, but I guess because I would have been so far behind with things like football and rugby and stuff, I was like, let me try a sport where most people start on the same level at university. And I know people go to private school, play lacrosse throughout their schooling time, or a lot of people do. But a lot of people at university have never even touched a lacrosse stick before. So joined mixed lacrosse and very quickly excelled and had a lovely time. Became second team captain in second year.
Wow. And
then vice president in third year.
Oh,
and had a great time with that.
Do you still play?
It feels like a distant memory. No, I don't, but I do miss it. I am part of one of the London lacrosse mailing lists, and I intend to go, but I don't know if I ever will.
You're a watcher in the catcher in the rye. A watcher in the rye.
I know, they email all the time. Actually, it's a little bit annoying, but
unsubscribe.
Yeah, so that was that, and I really enjoyed lacrosse. And then, unfortunately, in my first year of university, my dad passed away. So on the 15th of March, I remember it obviously vividly, which naturally I feel like you would, or some people would. I was sitting on my bed in halls, first year halls, and I got a call from my brother. And I was revising for my midterms for cognitive psychology, I think it was. I don't remember these sorts of things, so it shows like it's kind of a distinct memory. Um, and yeah, he just said, nothing to worry about, but Dad's in hospital. He basically they found a tumor, and they just need to see what's going on. But they think it's cancer. And that was the 15th of March. Basically, 3 months to the day, it was just extreme deterioration, very quick. And on the 15th of June, he passed away. So I don't know why I'm already getting upset about it, but I guess it's very valid. And he passed away on 3 months to the day. It was just such a whirlwind of, and every moment that led up to it was kind of like, and it's to no one's fault. I'm not conspiring here, but you know, the doctors were like, "Oh yeah, we're just waiting for this thing to happen, then we'll start the treatment, and then we're just waiting for this management to happen, then we'll start the treatment." And that was in the hospital he was in. And then it was kind of like, "Oh, actually, now a bit of time's gone on. We're going to send him to the hospice so he can just get a bit more energy, and then we'll start the treatment." And then basically, it just never happened. And
do you hold anger at them for that?
I think I did at the time.
Yeah.
But I don't hold on to it now. I don't. I think also the examinations that were done afterwards showed that like there wouldn't have been anything that they could have done anyway, in terms of how extensive and what was going on, which I obviously won't go into detail about, but they couldn't have. I don't think they could have done anything. Like, I'm not a doctor, but I can see that they probably couldn't have done anything. So I guess it was just like a whole massive whirlwind of just crap and horrible things. Even I don't know. You just never believe it, really, do you? Even in the moment when you can logically and rationally see that this is happening and that this person is coming to end of life, you're still just there holding their hand like, "Oh no, it'll be okay," and like wishfully thinking, or like walking around the hospice gardens and just being like, "Oh no, it will turn around," and then it just doesn't, and then they pass away, and it's really sad. And that kind of happened when I was 19. And I stayed at university because I just didn't want, and I knew he wouldn't want me to like stop my life. I knew he would have wanted me to carry on. And just smash everything. So I kind of continued doing that, and I guess everything I do now is in part helping, like contributing to that and making him proud, as well as my mum and my brothers and things, and myself. But yeah, there was a big part of that. So I stayed at university, and it was really difficult. And in reflection, like in the moment, I didn't realize, but I was a horrible person. Like, and I don't know whether they would have the same perspective, and they might be a lot more gracious about it, but I feel bad to the people I lived with at the time in second year when I came back, because as you do, and maybe that wasn't healthy either, but like it was just typical going out drinking and all those things, and every time I was drinking, I was just like, I use the Jack Russell analogy. I was just like a little Jack Russell. I was just like big mouth, just chatting so much caca, referencing last week's episode, to everyone, and just being like verbally nasty, just a nasty person.
Did that come about because you were just angry at the world, do you think?
I think logically that's where it was coming from. I was still very much grieving. I mean, you don't really start like grief
were you even at grieving at that point?
I don't even know. I think it's 12 weeks, or it might even be 3 to 6 months. You don't even properly start grieving. Like, a lot of bereavement counsellors wouldn't even take a referral until like a few months have passed, because like the dust hasn't even settled yet. You can't even begin to unpack it. So that happened in June. I then went back to university in September. End of September, it just started to happen. And so I don't hold like regret for that or anything, and I'm still like, they're some of my closest friends to this day, and just wonderful people for carrying me through that. But that's something that happened, and it was my way of, I guess, not that I knew at the time, and still don't know, but that's probably my way of going through that. Another way that I did go through that, and is a huge part of who I am now, is running.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and something that's not funny. It makes so much sense. But you speak to any runner, and they've all got some story.
Sort of trauma.
And so some of the last conversations I was having with Dad before he could talk anymore, were about how I just started running.
Yeah.
And I was going to just get into running and maybe do a race. And he was showing like pride with that, and sort of we were having conversations about it, and it was lovely. And something I guess no parent's perfect, something that I struggled with my dad when I was younger is how I wasn't really into sports and those sorts of things, and he very much was, and like would love that. And so therefore that was another thing that I just felt a bit like crappy about. Not that I'm not saying there's an like intention there from his part or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm not here to also discuss that right now. But anyway, regardless, when we were talking and I was talking about the running, and I could see like this is an interest that he has, and it was just nice to sort of get that validation.
Do you think that's still part of why you run every day? Is a little bit of you holds that as a piece of him?
I don't know. No, I think a lot of my being now is seeking my own validation and knowing my worth and getting that internally, and knowing actually potentially if there was a lack of validation or appreciation, I'm not saying that were the case, but if that were hypothetically, that would be a reflection of that parent, and them being not practicing the best parenting skills, for example, and not because I did have a lack of worth or I was any less worthwhile or whatever. So no, I don't know that side is like me chasing that validation, me running. I think there is still very much the connection between like him and myself when I'm running, for sure, because I like that memory just is bold in my mind, more just from a connection as opposed to like seeking approval, I guess. But yeah, I have a distinct memory of I didn't cry for so long, and I felt a bit weird about it. And I remember, and none of this sounds weird. None of grief is weird. I guess I'm just being self-deprecating, but I would like drive in the car and play his funeral song that my brother chose, and it's such a beautiful song. And I would be like driving in the car playing it, like trying to make myself emotional, because I was like, why am I not like sad here? And like, why am I not feeling how I feel like I should feel? Going through that in the weeks after he passed away. And then one day I was just out running, and it was boiling hot baking sun, and I just could not get a rhythm, and I was really struggling. I couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything, and I was just getting so agitated and wound up. And I just remember like desperately trying to find shade, like just running towards shade, and there just was no shade anywhere. And every time I turn a corner, I'm like, there's still no shade, and just getting so frustrated that why is there no shade anywhere? And I just like all of a sudden just gave up and started wailing and just like shouting at the sky, why are you doing this to me? And like it was obviously just a complete like explosion of everything in that moment, like being projected onto there being a lack of shade, or the sun being in my face, like making this run difficult. But it was funny because it was like that was my connection with him in that moment, but it was also so painful at the same time, and it was all just this big expulsion of stuff. And it's just a distinct memory I have. So all these years later, that is a reason why I think I maintained running, because then instantly I signed up to Reading Half Marathon and raised £2,500 for his hospice. And very much then just caught the bug. Like I feel like people start running to get through something, and then they very much continue it because they realize the endorphins and the addiction and the community and all those things, which is very much my reality. So I raised money for his hospice. In doing so, I got really bad shin splints and I could not run. I was still at university, not very healthy, all those sorts of things in terms of my diet and lifestyle choices. Drinking, all those things, and shin splints were very real, but I'd raised so much money, I was like, well, there's no way I'm not doing this. So did it, but like very much was like jogging and just and what was lovely, and I know I've mentioned this to you before, was that just the strangers that come up to you and like, come on, I'll run with you for a bit, and they'll pick you up, and when you're in like the
that's
pit.
now you, isn't it? On most races, that's you, you're the one who picks other people up, which is lovely to see as well.
It is what I try and do, and there's just so much that I now get from that running, and that is sort of translated into what I do all these years later. But I guess in between that happening and where the running is now, which I'll come back to maybe shortly, is my academic studies. So I, as most people do, finished my undergraduate, and up until very recently have also felt like this, but just been like lost. I've been like, I have these passions that I enjoy doing, or this work that I enjoy doing, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm embarking upon my early 20s, finishing an undergraduate, and there's all of these schemas of you've got to find your career, do this next steps, and I was like, I don't blooming know what I want to do, and it's so scary. So I started a master's because I do enjoy academia, and as we've seen, which I didn't like internalize at the time, but obviously I'm somewhat of a bright person in terms of academically. I started a master's in forensic psychology because I really enjoyed the sort of how we can help individuals and help individuals who, if they're not helped, end up in sort of antisocial realms or antisocial behavior, and if there's things that we can do, and then completely stigmatized and completely shut out from society, and it just becomes a perpetual cycle of sort of stigmatization and being shut out, but then that's just making their situations worse and their environments worse. So how can we help that or prevent that even happening in the first place? So I embarked upon a master's in forensic psychology. Had some really cool placements while I was there, working in different hospitals and things. Thoroughly enjoyed that, looking after or supporting very acutely unwell people. And I then worked in GP practices after my master's, supporting patients in the community with their social issues, from slightly like a mental health realm, but it was less so than I'd initially imagined, and as such was kind of like, I want to get back to that side of things. Messaged my supervisor, who was my supervisor for my master's, because she was brilliant and really empowering as a supervisor, and just said, I don't know if you know of any research assistant jobs coming up, but can you let me know? And she replied instantly, being like, the PhD scholarship is actually open at the moment. Do you want to give it a go? And I just was like, I'm not going to get it, but I've got nothing to lose. I had no investment emotionally in this application, because I was like, I just did not believe for one single second it would happen. So I was like, well, I've got nothing to lose. Let's just see. And long story short, got the place, and
unreal.
Had a whole scholarship to do a PhD, and
so cool.
Yeah, 3.5 years later, completed my PhD, successfully defended my PhD in my viva, with a PhD titled "The Parental Experience of Raising a Child with Conduct Disorder." Now, for the sake of time today, I won't necessarily go into the details of that PhD here and now, but there's so much that we can and will unpack in terms of that PhD, in terms of the findings, the work that needs to be done, just everything. I know that it's super important research, and I'm very proud of what I did, and the work that will come from it, whether that's myself doing it or other people using my research to carry on the work. So ultimately, I guess a very brief definition is conduct disorder is a mental and behavioral disorder observed in children and adolescents. So like an eating disorder is, or anxiety or depression, conduct disorder is another diagnosable mental disorder. It is behavioral in symptomology or in expression mainly. The current diagnostic criteria only lists behaviors, even though research shows that there are sort of internalizing symptoms as well. When I say internalizing symptoms, I mean things like your affect, or like anxiety, depression, things internally. But diagnostic criteria only stipulate the behavioral symptoms, which in itself creates problems, because we're looking at stigmatizing behaviors and all those sorts of things. Because by definition, conduct disorder is behavioral problems. It's aggression and violence, deceitfulness, violation of rules, theft, all those sorts of things, but expressed across many settings and across persisting time. And it's not just running away from school or running away from home. Unfortunately, like in severe cases, which are very common, it's severe violence. Homicide. Parents I was speaking to being physically disabled from injuries impacted from their children. severe violence and aggression. And as we might expect, in the community, we say, oh, there's a bad child here. What are the parents doing? Why aren't the parents trying? Why aren't the parents looking after them?
Yeah.
The parents who I'm speaking to are don't sleep. They're doing everything they possibly can, advocating for their child, trying to get all the support they can, like just doing absolutely everything they put in their power, all while being victimized themselves to try and get the help for their child or their adolescent child. So that was the broad, very quick findings, and there's just a lot that needs to come from that. So I did that PhD. And then very much like, where do I go next? And
as with everything,
all the while was talking or building up this running stuff, and I'd been on a run streak. Very much enjoyed the running, and I guess, I wanted a space, which we mentioned last week, to have a safe space for runners who, of all running abilities, could feel welcome and included, and not sort of dissuaded or demoralized.
From the stigmas in society,
exactly. So set up the Monday Mood Booster, and that was in October 2023, and it's just flourished since then. We've obviously met through that, or through running anyway, and there's just so much expanding from that, which is really, really beautiful. So I work in marketing and really enjoy that job. I also work in lecturing as well. I teach once a week, which I really enjoy. Doing some research as well into running and sort of the value of run clubs. Specifically, this study is looking at the value of run clubs for individuals who live in urban settings, and what that means for them navigating sort of a city, but then what run clubs do for that. And that takes us to the present day. I live in West London. With some great people. Now another great person. Anyway, so enough about me. I'm sick of talking about me today.
You've been just chatting away.
Non-stop.
Cannot get this guy to stop talking. Sorry. Ask him one question about where he went earlier. It's just, this is me.
My bad. My bad. So, Charlie. Sorry, what's your name? Nice to meet you.
My name's Charlie Allnuts. Charlie John Allnuts, actually, the middle name.
Wow.
It's very, very important.
Cool.
Charlie John Allnuts.
Can you tell me about where you were conceived?
I do not know, as I was not there.
Okay.
Thankfully, that would have been weird and impossible for me to say where I was conceived.
Tell me everything else then. Okay. What can I know? Tell me.
So, as I mentioned, my middle name's John. I am currently 24, living in West London. Born and raised in London, actually.
West Philadelphia,
born and raised.
Love that from you.
Yes, it's huge. Yeah. No, so born and raised in London. I actually did a couple years ago a DNA test to try and find out if I was all from London.
I don't know why I act surprised there.
This is one of the funniest things. I did a DNA test, one of those 23andMe or Ancestry kits, I think they're called.
Did you meet Davina McCall?
I don't get that reference. Anyway, who is that? Is that the X Factor?
Sorry, just one thing about Charlie as we're introducing him. He doesn't know who Davina McCall is, nor does he know who Fern Cotton
I know
is.
No, I know who Fern Cotton is. Fern, if you're watching this, which I probably are, please respond to our email and work with us.
Just lay it all out there for everyone.
Oh no, the branding's out there.
Sorry, carry on.
Regardless, before I was rudely interrupted.
As always.
So, because of, I think I can speak a bit objectively, I got quite a cracking tan sometimes in the summer. Part of me was like, I can't all be from England, I can't all be from Britain. So I did one of these Ancestry kits, sent it away, spit in a little tube, which was quite hot, and then sent it away, eagerly waiting my results for my birthday. This actually, I think it was a birthday present from my mum. Got the kit back, was looking, and it gives you this whole map to break down exactly where you're from. And essentially, I'm just going to lay it on thick, 98% from Surrey.
Thanks for laying that on thick.
It was all from Surrey, and I was all from England, and I was absolutely gutted. I remember I was just looking through, being like, is it wrong? Is it wrong? Is it like 2% from Iceland?
Okay.
I don't believe it, though.
Okay.
Partly. Because
the DNA doesn't lie.
No, because what I think happened was they traced my dad's surname, which is obviously my surname, rather than using my DNA, my spit tube. Because my mum, I know for a fact, is French prostitutes in her bloodline. No French came back.
Right.
So it's a lie. Regardless, as I've mentioned, I'm all from England.
Did you get the St. George's flag tattooed that day?
I did not.
Oh.
No, I did not.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Probably, but I'm the oldest of 3 brothers.
Okay.
I love my family. as you know, I'm a massive family guy.
Seems the day.
I love my family. It's the most important thing to me. I think for me, because I'm the oldest of three, for my character, it's really allowed me to lean into more of leadership roles in other things in life in terms of how it shaped my being. I think I'm naturally quite a confident person, or at least that's what I put out there. And I think for me, having two younger brothers, it's allowed me to really step into just much more natural leadership roles, I'd say. My parents split when I was about 10, 12. And I think very quickly, without being asked to, just the role I sort of assumed was not the father figure, but just the sort of looking after them figure as well. And I think that, again, has relayed into other factors in my life when I felt like back then I needed to protect them or protect my mum or whatever sort of thing it was. So I think for that facet, at an early age, it's really allowed me to step into leadership roles as well, or take on that sort of, leadership personality type.
Do you enjoy that?
I did, yeah, and I do, yeah. I feel most comfortable or myself, not when I'm leading people, because that feels weird to say, but when I'm looking after people, I would say it feels most natural to me. It's what I care and it's what I love doing. It's always been me, I'd say. So even with my friends nowadays or whoever, I'd like to think that when I'm giving or when I'm, don't Dave, watch out, man. When I'm you throw me off.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, when I'm looking after people is when I feel happiest and when I feel most joy. Like, I know I'll speak about this later, but even in Lake Garda recently when we went, for me it was when I was helping others, was when I got the most satisfaction out of anything. And I think a lot of that stems from my early age.
Yeah.
Of me being a young boy.
I know what you're saying. And I don't know if you'll be too modest to say this, but I know you've said to me in the past that in your friendship group, people sort of look to you, or your friendship groups, you're sort of known as the carer or the one who's helpful or has a good advice.
I think so. Yeah, recently in the boys chat, in the guys chat that I have, one of them was going through a bit of a tough time, and it was quite nice. I think, I'm not sure how realistic the actual tough time was, but one of my other friends, Ben, he was saying that Charlie's really good at usually giving this really good sort of sage wisdom, and I thought that was a lovely comment to make.
Yeah.
If I'm seen as the one who gives the nice advice, it's not too bad, is it, at all?
Really lovely.
So I think that's something that I appreciate in our friendship, is the fact that we sort of both have that and can bounce that off of each other as well. It's lovely to see.
Yeah.
So that was me at an early age. In school, I know you mentioned that you were a average student with your straight A's.
I hate the fact that you said that.
Yeah, that's awful from you. I actually was very much a below average student. I was not good at all in the schooling system. I think I chalk a lot of it up to my dyslexia. Very dyslexic. Me and my youngest brother Jude both are. The thing with dyslexia, at least what I've found, I wasn't diagnosed till I was like 16, 17. Super late in the schooling system. None of the teachers knew. I think because I didn't gel with the schooling system or the sort of way it worked, I just didn't focus. And that allowed me to, lean into this class clown sort of comedian type role, which of course allowed my grades to really suffer as well. I think the interesting thing with, at least what I found with my experience with dyslexia, was that as I've said, it felt very under-researched or understudied. Even with, once I had my diagnosis of my dyslexia, even then the most they said was just, use a laptop just to like study, and that felt like not a cop out, but it just didn't feel like any sort of part of the education system gelled with realistically the way my brain worked. Now, saying that, I didn't work very hard in my GCSEs. I didn't revise at all, so I am going to take some personal responsibility here. But I do feel like a huge part of my brain, or the way I learnt and worked, wasn't really, fitting in with the whole education system at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of why my grades spiraled as well.
It's tricky, like having a, one system for all people, where we're individual learners and have endless ways of learning and optimal learning. So if your brain works in a way that isn't really functioning or doesn't do well in the traditional education system, it's so easy to see how then that you just completely. Sort of slip away from that. I don't think the same, and obviously
in terms of the education
well,
system.
no, I'm just talking about myself. My grades didn't necessarily reflect this, but I have attention issues, and I just remember like absolute the agony of trying to hold attention and stay awake, and like literally feeling like I was just I could not even for more than half an hour. And I know people are like, oh, TikTok, all these things now, but like I've always had attention issues. And it's just, I guess a similar thing, not to the same, but
No, it
it's
is.
just when you're sitting in one spot for so long, like some lessons are like an hour and a half, and I'm like,
2 hours.
you expect a 13-year-old to sit there and absorb all that information for that long? But anyway,
my priorities back in those years was gaming. That was my vice. I remember I had these free periods back in A levels. This is how long it actually lasted until during A levels. I had these free periods on like a Wednesday afternoon from 4 till 6 or whenever the hours were after lunch. I had 2 hours of like economics class. I remember vividly I chose to skip economics and go home and play this new video game that I had been bought or given by my friend Sol. And to leave the school, I had to walk past the classroom where economics was. It was up in this building. I was walking by. I left until about 10 minutes into the lesson to hopefully think that they were like mid-presentation or focused. Walking by the classroom because that was the only exit. I was trying to do it really sneaky, like, look up, see, are they checking? Are they looking? I walk past, I look up. Everyone's looking down. They're all in a line by the window.
are you joking?
I remember vividly the teacher just looked and like saw me, made eye contact and turned straight around and just went in the classroom.
That's so
I've
funny.
since seen a video of someone taking a video in the classroom of everyone lining up and from me down there as well. It was, pretty bad.
Yep.
So anyway, my attention span wasn't great. I think a lot because I didn't really gel with the education system at all. For a lot of my schooling period, I didn't really have a passion or find something that I really wanted to pursue either. I know a lot of my friends back then were doing business. They were looking to go into law, maybe medicine, whatever it was. I just felt like didn't find that at all. And so that led me to, when I was looking at university courses, just follow my friends and think, what are my friends doing? Business management, let me do that. That sounds like an applicable course. And I feel like a lot of people still do that these days.
Yeah, definitely.
It was something that I fell into. And it was a shame because it didn't breed that sense of curiosity in me, which I think school should be doing. I didn't have that. Now, part of that, again, as I've said, I take personal accountability for, but I also take it that my learning type wasn't really flourished back then as well.
I do just think like at the age of 16, 17, how are you supposed to know what you want to do? And for some people, if they do, that's great. But how are you supposed to know that? But because we are in a system in the UK where university is still kind of the default. It's kind of like, well, you finished A levels, of course you're going to university.
Yeah, and then you're gonna get a job.
Yeah, obviously not for everyone, but probably
not.
for in your school and the people you were surrounded by, that was definitely the default. And as an academic myself, I'm like, I can see that's so deeply flawed, and not everyone should be in university.
I remember back in A levels, one of my, whether it'll happen or not, we can obviously make it happen. One of my goals for like life, I just recall, so I think I've said this to you before, was to, if I ever get enough power and influence in my life, was to completely change the education system from ground upwards.
Oh, nice.
I don't know what that would look like. It takes a lot of learning for me to do, but I'd like to have a hand in that if it can be. Changing some sort of format to cater to a lot of different minds and a lot of different creatives. I know a lot of my friends who are dyslexic as well, so creative, and it just felt stamped out back in school. And I know obviously the schooling system very much rewards those who sit down, work hard, focus for hours, and will put in the effort. I didn't do that, but I feel like to life, there's so much more than that. To what we, as a civilization, we've got so much more to offer.
Yeah.
So if we can somehow do that, then that's a conversation for obviously a different day. But it's an interesting one.
Definitely.
So I was a little bit lost after A levels. My mum said to me, "If you're feeling lost, have a gap year. Have a gap year."
Nice.
Just take a year out. If you don't know what you want to do after the year, if you still don't know, go to Oxford Brookes, to the uni, and do business. Okay, just do that. So I thought, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. So took a year out, worked in the pub, in my local pub for a little bit, just trying to earn some money quickly. And I've got family over in Australia, so I thought, why not book a little bit of a solo travel trip to Australia, to the East Coast. Yeah, so for the
G'day,
first...
mate.
Yeah, g'day, mate. So I thought I'd try that side of the world for a little bit.
Okay.
So I went out there for the first 2-3 weeks. I was with family friends, with my family for a little bit, bouncing around Sydney area. And then after those 2-3 weeks of getting acclimatized to the opposite time, thought I'd start my solo travels. So I went up just north of Sydney to a place called Noosa, a nice surfing town.
Nice.
I bought a surfboard in Sydney, I believe, the week prior, learning to surf, kind of. And for the next 1 or 2 weeks in Noosa, I just taught myself how to surf completely.
So cool.
Every day. I was in a hostel every day. There was a van which went to the popular shore break, and I'd just take it first thing in the morning, be there for like 10 hours. I bought myself a little Quicksilver surfing watch because I didn't obviously have my phone, and the van had to come at certain times, so I had to know when the van was coming back. So I spent hours.
Good old days.
Like the good old days. Here I am with my Bluetooth earphones.
I had to get a watch because I didn't have my phone. That's so funny.
I think I have that watch still, to be fair. I loved that. For me, that kick-started my love for the ocean, for the outdoors, for that culture of just the sun and surf. I remember listening to the Surf's Up soundtrack on the way, and that just...
One of your favourite songs, isn't it?
It wasn't the New Radicals one.
Okay.
It was Into Yesterday by Sugar Ray.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, anyway. So that was Noosa. Funny story, actually. I saw a shark in Noosa, and I swear to God, I can confirm it's a shark, because when I was on my surfboard one day, a very, very gloomy and overcast day, we were in the water, a bunch of surfers were out, lovely waves, it was pumping, and I'm just there paddling, and out my right, in my peripherals, I think I see a fin. Right, what was that? You can't confirm if it's a fin or like a rogue little wave crest or something. I then look left, and I see this surfer left of me, and he looks at me and said, "Did you see that?" I was like, "Oh no, oh no!" So I think someone else saw it as well, because collectively all the surfers just start paddling. I think a couple of guys just surf in. I didn't. Yeah, I think I kept off for like a couple of days then as well.
Yeah, flip that.
So
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, that was Noosa. Absolutely loved it. Did a little road trip down to Byron Bay, about for another 2 weeks or so. I know I was 18. I think I'd have a little bit more of a mixed view now on Byron Bay, just because I've grown up a little bit more. But for me back then, it was like heaven on earth. Belinda Carlisle was like heaven on earth completely. It was just the lifestyle. It was so like hippie-esque as well. It was brilliant. Funny story. I actually met this Swedish guy in Noosa, a random Swedish guy, sort of teaching me a little bit how to surf and how to pop up and turn quickly. He was on this bus ride which I had randomly booked one day. Saw him as well. I basically continued to see him every day in Byron Bay, randomly in different points. It was like the weirdest thing. We ended up becoming quite good friends.
Oh, nice.
I don't know where he is now, but best of luck to you, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
All the best.
All the best. Cheers.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, that guy. Yeah. So I was in Byron Bay briefly. Absolutely loved it. Just continued to surf. For me, again, I was 18. The lifestyle was wake up at 10 a.m, grab the surfboard, go down for a surf for 2 hours or so, come back in, grab a sushi roll.
Oh, what a life.
Eat sushi for about half an hour and then go back out and surf, and then come back in at 5 p.m. and make dinner and go to a bar.
I'm assuming that's when you used to eat fish.
Yes, it was. I don't eat fish anymore, guys. I'm on a much more sustainable level right now.
You don't like sushi that much because of that, right? Sorry.
I mean, I love sushi, but I don't eat fish for the practices of fishing. Very unsustainable.
Well, I like sushi and I'm vegetarian.
Yeah, well, the soya bean kind of just tastes a bit. I think I had that one bad experience in that sushi place.
No, you're just... It's really good.
I do love sushi. It's anabolic as hell sushi.
Lovely stuff. Great stuff. It's a little bit expensive, but anyway. Yep. Carry on.
Yes. Anyway. So that was Australia. Absolutely loved it. I came back and still... Obviously, I had this looming thing of business management, didn't really want to do that. My mum handed me this gap year book, and I was flicking through the pages, and I saw this almost listed ad for this company called Blue Ventures. It's a marine conservation volunteering program. I was like, oh, what is this? It said, spend 9 weeks in Madagascar and learn how to scuba dive. I was like, oh, this is so cool.
That's so cool.
So I... booked it, saved up all my money that I had worked for this at the pub for months on end, spent it all on this trip here.
Tracy the travel agent.
She actually used to work at Trail Finders, the travel company, so she knew what she was doing. Yeah. So I went up to Madagascar, and I'd say this was a trip genuinely which altered the direction of, I'd say, my life, probably. Basically what it was I flew into the capital city, Antananarivo, had to get a little biplane to this little airport called Tuliar, And bear in mind, I think I was 18, 19. I think I was 18 still at this point. Very chaotic. I wasn't very organized. I think I've recently stepped into much more of an organized person. I think I'm very
joking, of course,
organized.
yes.
I
I'm
think I'm
joking,
very,
of
yeah,
course,
back
yes.
then I was not. I booked a taxi about 3 days prior to actually flying out, so I
Yeah.
didn't really know what was happening. I arrived in the airport and my taxi just wasn't there.
Sound, love that one.
It was 2 a.m. in this. I don't speak a lick of French, and I arrive, and obviously Madagascar is a French-speaking colony
Bonjour.
or French-speaking
Just speak English.
country. So I arrive, and this little 15-year-old kid's like, "Yes, taxi,
Oh,
come here."
God.
I get in a taxi, show him on my phone what I think my hotel's called. He's like, "That doesn't exist." I'm like, "Oh God!" It's 2 a.m. in Madagascar. He drives into a random airport, a random hotel. Sorry. I come to the front desk, and this guy's like, that is not a hotel. You can stay here, and it's this much. It was way more than I thought. I was like, oh God. My mum, I remember, was fuming. At night time, she was like calling and emailing the Blue Ventures company. So I go up into a bed. I had to play like ocean noises to help me get to sleep because I was quite anxious as well. I wake up to a call at like 8 a.m. the next morning, and it's the expedition leader, Eleanor. And she calls me and say, "Hey, you need to be at the domestic airport in half an hour's time. I'll be there to pick you up, and we can fly to, or we can go to wherever we need to go to." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I meet her.
Sound, Eleanor.
Basically, Madagascar, to cut things short-ish. We then land in this next place. We have an 8-hour drive across these sand dunes into this rural, not tribe, but village. It's a fishing village on the west coast of Madagascar. We're there for 9 weeks, and the whole sort of premise was that learn to scuba dive first off, and then for the next 6 weeks or so, we're collecting data on fish, on coral. I actually learned 133 different types of fish.
That's so cool.
It was a little trick of mine. I remember I was briefly seeing this girl after Madagascar, and part of my like not wooing tactic, but was to like list off all these fish. It was like, look out, yeah, that's a sergeant fish or whatever. And it's like, what am I doing?
Smooth talker.
Yeah, didn't work out.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
Can't put my finger on it.
Anyway, when I was in Madagascar, I remember I had this real pull to still, obviously had this looming thing of business management. And one of the weeks, Eleanor, the expedition leader, I was talking to her about what I wanted to do. And I remember just saying, I've got business management. I'm not really keen for it. I don't really know what to do. And she sits me down and she's like, you have too much to offer to, go into business. No offense to the business management people out there, but she said, lean into your passions, do what you want to do. I was like, okay, you're right. There are a couple of doctors on that course as well, and they were saying the same thing, like, do exactly what you want. Screw if you're not passionate about business, find something that you want to do, even if it's ocean conservation. So I came back from Madagascar, binned off my offer to do business management at Oxford Brookes.
Bye, Oxford.
See you later.
Brookes.
And I got an non-unconditional, and I got an offer to study ocean science and marine conservation at Plymouth University.
Big up Plymouth.
Big up Plymouth, the best place in the earth,
Yep,
in the world.
Wouldn't know.
Something to say?
Wouldn't know.
Something to say there?
Maybe
Mr. Southampton?
Nothing. We already know which was better, but we don't need to compare.
No, I know I don't.
No, well,
because mine's better.
Not what you said earlier, but okay, fair enough.
Regardless. So, went to Plymouth. Instantly, absolutely loved it. The course, the people doing it, it was so much more me. Like, everyone there was surfy, scuba sort of person, or at least the people who I was hanging out with. The lifestyle was a lot more outdoors. It was by the coast. So during the summertime, I still stand by this. You probably won't agree. Apart from London or maybe even Mauritius, Plymouth is one of the nicest places, I believe, during the summertime in the world. Now that's probably
I literally can't
that
say.
is probably skewed by my own bias and memory and nostalgia, but it was, I just remember the memories are so fond of just that time as well.
I categorically can't say because I've never been to Plymouth.
Well,
I have places like that in England that I'm like, this is the best place outside of in England, if not above other places outside of England in the summer. So I know the feeling for sure. But I can't say I've never been to Plymouth. So I'm glad,
unlucky. You should go.
Maybe one time.
There's a nice Premier Inn right on the corner of the roundabout.
Oh, Easy Hotel Premier Inn.
Yeah, there's a lovely. It's not Iberica. What's it called?
Ibis. I stayed in the Ibis
Hotel
last weekend.
Did you?
Yeah.
Big up Ibis. There are other hotels available, guys.
Other hotels are available.
We're not sponsored by Ibis yet. Regardless, so I went to Plymouth. Found some good friends.
Nice.
Loved the course. I did my dissertation on it was an assessment of the sustainability in the global trade of coral. Pardon me.
Oh, pardon. Oh,
pardon me.
Someone's gassing.
So for me, what I found was by far the most interesting part of my course was coral reefs. And so I spent basically most of third year studying coral reefs, how sustainable the global trade in them. So people often harvest them for aquariums, jewelry, whatever these things are. And I was pulling all this data to try and figure out if this trade was sustainable. Found out it's very much not.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
A lot of these Southeast Asian
Spoiler.
countries are, going far past their exports. But that's another conversation for another day. It's
How did you collect data on that? What was your data?
It was all.
Was it like a systematic review or something?
No, it was. I just found all these data sources online.
Okay.
Of how did I collect data? It was just online. It was obviously secondary data. I wasn't collecting it myself. Wasn't speaking to the governor of Indonesia.
Okay.
Saying what are your exports looking like?
You didn't do that?
No. There's a lot of Excel. There's a database called Sites, I believe it is.
Okay.
CITES, and it basically looks at all the trading data of everything globally, all the animals, all the corals. So I was basically collecting data through there.
Okay.
Loads of fun. I absolutely loved that. I remember one of my fond memories of doing it was one of my friends. He worked in a brewery in Plymouth, and one evening I just went there, sat down. He was working, just serving people, like 4 beers, and I was just ripping my dissertation for like 4 hours one evening, and it was lovely.
Yeah,
just loved that as well. So that was my dissertation. Throughout most of third year, I was trying to get a job for after university. I was trying to get what is next, and I think a lot of me still held the ideals of Madagascar, of living in a hut on the beach, that sort of surfer bum lifestyle sort of thing. I was really trying to go for that, and so what I was looking for was that essentially. I was messaging a couple of dive schools in Thailand for after. Ended up speaking to someone in Koh Tao, sent him my dissertation. He was looking for a marine conservation and someone with a bit more experience in research as well, because that was a field that he was trying to flesh out in his own company as well. Sent him my dissertation. He loved it. So we basically agreed that in the October after I graduated, 2023 I think it was, 2022 maybe. Yeah, you were like full-time work weren't you, pal?
Yeah, I turned 40 by that time.
Yeah, anyway. Yikes. Other ages are available.
That's crazy. Sorry, carry on.
So, went straight out to Thailand to try and get some work. For the first month or so, I got my dive master. I was learning how to finish up diving. And I was trying to lean into much more of the marine conservation role. Again, I got a hut on the beach. It was exactly what I thought I'd wanted. I loved the solo travel again. It reignited that sort of passion which I had found before university. And I remember the job offer when I initially spoke to him. I was like, how does 1 or 2 or 3 months of work experience sound? Because that was what I thought I wanted. He then came back and said, how does 12 months? I was like, oh my God, this is unreal. I had this offer, and me back then was very much like the universe is providing. It feels so right. It's spiritually aligned. When I went out there, if you know anything about scuba diving, it's a very slow-paced activity. You slow everything down. You have a lot of time to think or be in quite a mindful state as well. And so over the months of training to become this marine conservationist for this company, I just all this time thinking something wasn't quite right. It didn't feel as fulfilling as I had wanted, or at least I'd achieved what I wanted before university. And I felt like there was something still more. The job in the end didn't end up being what I had intended, or what was meant for me. And I think over the months of just doing what I was doing out there, scuba diving every day, I had a lot of time to think and reflect on what I was wanting. I had a lot of pulls back in the UK as well. My relationship, my family, the sense of more opportunity as well. And I think just over the months of being out there, I felt this real misalignment with what I thought I'd wanted and what I actually wanted, and that misalignment allowed me to feel quite lost. I loved the lifestyle out there, waking up, go to the beach, have some fruit, do some Muay Thai, go scuba diving, the sun, the sea. That's exactly what I love. But still, even with all that, I found I was getting sick of it, which was the weirdest thing to me as well. Too much of it. And so after about 4 months or so out there, I basically called it and said, this isn't working for me. I don't feel as fulfilled as I should. Something isn't right. So a lot of thought, I came back to London. I was a little bit lost that time. I messaged a friend who was in a sales role and said, what do you recommend? I think my relationship at the time had said or suggested that I'd be quite good in a sales role as well. So I messaged my friend Sol, and he basically put me in touch with a recruiter who got me a sales role after about 2 months of being back in London. I did very, very well at it. Still in the sales role now. Been in there for just under 2 years, I think. Around 2 years. Just under 2 years. And that was really where I am today. But something that I've found was that even coming back to London, I still had that feeling of being quite lost as well. And I think for the longest time I had almost blamed London itself for that misalignment of feelings. I blamed the city itself. I blamed my surroundings. Obviously with any big decision, I had feelings of regret, of what if, all these feelings there. And I remember when I was out in Thailand, I really tried to make myself saying, listen, this is a big choice you're going to make. Make sure it's one which, if you go out there, you're not going to look back and say, what if? This is a choice that you are convinced of. And I think most of me was convinced of that. But when I made this decision and I was, in this new role, such a change from what I thought I'd been wanting to do for so long, from even before university. It even went back to the time when I made a decision to not go to Oxford Brookes. Weirdly enough, the guy who put me in touch with this recruiter went to Oxford Brookes and did business management. So I was like, how's that work? I made this choice here and I'm back, in the path which I thought I had chosen to not go in. And I was blaming London and all my external factors for that misalignment, when realistically it was, I think, me who I wasn't looking inwards onto.
Okay.
Not to blame myself, but I didn't have the tools at the time to look inwards and really try and question why I wasn't happy or what I felt like I was missing.
Yep.
And only as of recently, I feel like in the past 6 to 8 months, I've gotten quite good at really leaning in, maybe even more recent than that, leaning into looking inwards and finding happiness from within. I feel like in Thailand, if I wasn't happy, and in London, I wasn't happy, there's a pattern there of these places change, and whilst the novelty might be there when I first arrive, that very, very quickly wears off.
Before you get to the stage of looking internally, how does that's got to, and I say that probably from somewhere that I've probably felt similar, but how does that feel? Like, you have this idea of your identity being attached to this career and this passion in this place. Firstly, that in itself, coming to that realization that that isn't the case and that wasn't a reality, and then coming back and still feeling that somewhere else. Like, that must feel...
It was really, really hard. I'm going to be honest. It was a tough time. And I had these schemas of thinking I couldn't reach out to my loved ones either and tell them how I was feeling. I had this, and I know a lot of young men have it, but this feeling of you need to handle it alone. If you're feeling lost, work through the pain, work through it, go to the gym and lock in is ridiculous. I felt like I couldn't reach out to anyone and say, I feel really lost. I feel like I've not made the right decision. What are these feelings of regret, of despair? All these feelings, it's...
Where do you think that came from? Not being able to...
I think...
For you?
I think it dates back. I mean, if I'm trying to be really introspective, I think a lot in my childhood, I didn't feel like I could open up. As I was mentioning, a huge part of me was looking after other people, my mum or my brothers or whoever it was. I didn't really hold space for myself when I was younger. It was never something that I allowed myself to do when I was growing up from 10 to whenever. So I think it's these patterns I fall into, or at least used to fall into, where if I was going through a tough time, the automatic trigger would be to not lean into it, put it aside and say, how can I actively work through this? What's the logical steps to work through it? Not sit with these feelings and just let them fester, which is not very healthy at all. And so I think when I came back and I had this real divide between where I felt like I was or where I felt like I should be, I distinctly remember saying to myself, I feel like the universe isn't looking after me anymore. And I think back then, like as I mentioned before, Thailand, such a huge part of me, when the job offer came through, I was like, oh, this just feels right. The universe is here. I'm spiritually aligned with what I should be doing. When I didn't feel like that, it was me, I think, looking inwards. Yeah, I felt like my path wasn't clear to me anymore. And that, fogginess to my path was really scary as well. Feeling like I didn't have my purpose, my passion, or whatever it was. I think it was just me not allowing myself to feel these very normal feelings of confusion, especially in an early 20s, especially when you're making a big 100%. Transition from a different country, you're trying to find your path. Even now, still to this day, it's tough to think, where do I fit into this world? And I think something that I'm learning as of right now more is, you don't need to fit into this world. It's you. You are this world. Technically, everything is, life comes from within you, not at you. Something that I'm realizing. But back then, I didn't have these tools to think or reflect on that, and I didn't allow myself the space to really open up. And so that just manifested in me shutting down with a lot of people around me, whether my family or my relationship at the time. It was just something that I didn't allow myself to feel and be quite open with, which was hard. It was just tough, and it's taken a lot of work since then to really sit with myself and allow myself to just communicate, not only with others, but myself as well, to be okay with how I'm feeling. It's something that we're doing here as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Is allow ourselves to sit in these uncomfortable feelings, because everyone experiences them. Is by talking about them is where I found myself. allowed to really be comfortable and find true peace, I think. That peace, that magic with what I was looking for in these countries, in Thailand and wherever, that peace, sure, the things I was doing was quite cool, but that I think that magic and that peace that I was looking for, I was trying to search for it externally in these other places, trying to grab onto it and find it. And then when I didn't find it, I'd blame the place.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this place isn't right for me. I need to be back in marine conservation. I need to look inwards. Who am I? Look after myself.
Yeah, because I remember when we met, you were like, "I'm not going to be in London for very long. I'm going to find a coast and be working whatever." You know, just because of where you were at in your headspace. And yeah, not because you didn't specifically enjoy your current job or whatever. It was just it was way beyond that. And I think even since, you know, just under a year that we've known each other, you've. Just seeing from an outside perspective, that's really shifted, and it's very much like you've just said, finding that inner peace, self-actualization, all those things internally.
Letting go of the ego-driven concept of who I think I should be or where I think I should be.
Based on external things, and finding that internally, which, it's hard to do.
It is. I think a question I've always asked myself beneath all the layers is, where should I live? Where should I be? Trying to really grasp onto these locations, and no answers come to me properly. You know, there's not been like one stand out and to be like, oh, I want to be here, I want to be there. I feel like for myself, you know, as soon as I had let go of that idea of where I should be and just find the best in where I am, it instantly transforms into something completely different. It actually provides that magic of where I was looking for with that question. I think I was just asking the wrong question to myself.
Fair. Well.
So that leads me to this current day.
Yeah.
Obviously, so I went through a breakup mid last year. Quite a tough time for me. A really, really tough time. Tough times never last. But I found the Monday Mood Booster, the Run Club, as we've mentioned in a previous episode. You know, I found that community and began running. And I think something that, it allowed me to do was, whilst I was working on myself, you know, self-actualization, self-improvement, was find a great community of people, which I hadn't had in a while. I think that was so nice because it allowed me to, you know, be myself authentically in a lovely group of people. I think that's just as simple as that. As we mentioned, went to Lake Garda. That was one of my favourite trips of the year, let alone the years. It was amazing. It was actually, it had that sense of magic from my previous trips, which was do something completely random. I didn't really know anyone from that trip either. And
maintains elite energy
exactly. And as I remember from when I was saying back when I was younger, I get so much from giving to people. I remember my favourite memory, as we've probably said, was what?
Sorry, carry on.
What was it?
You just get so much from giving.
Oh, did I say that again?
Yeah.
Oh no.
You're a giver.
Oh god, I'm a giver. This is awful.
Carry on, sorry. No, carry on.
One of my favourite memories of this trip was the finish line with you, me, Mark, and Mark. I mean, there was a load of other people there, but Mark saying to me just before the finish line, can I please put my arm around you as we finish? I'm like, yeah, sure. We see the finish line as we turn the final corner. He put his arm around me. I don't think he'd run further than like 8K.
Yeah.
God knows. And he put his arm around me and we finished, you know, the race. And he just turns around and just screams like, let's go. He looks at us, pure elation.
Yeah.
And the feeling of seeing someone else or help someone else achieve that, by far bigger than any sort of race completion that I've done.
Yeah. It's insane, isn't it?
It was beautiful. I think the closest thing one can get to crack cocaine or heroin. Yeah. It looks like good stuff, clearly. Exactly that.
Hit me up.
Hit me up. Yeah. So, yeah, that was lovely. And I think just seeing what I get from giving to other people was lovely.
Yeah.
And I think that trip and this club shows that a lot.
How did that then, I guess, reflecting on that, going through those things internally and at the same time going through really difficult things, how did finding those sorts of moments or sitting with those sorts of moments then shift your perspective, or how did you interpret those when you were reflecting on, like, you know, you got home from Garda, how was that feeling?
My God, I was on cloud nine for so long. Do you remember it? That feeling? I was on cloud nine for so long.
It was incredible.
I remember because something a habit that I've adopted since the breakup was journaling most days, just whether that's to keep me level-headed, just to keep me present in the moment, or at least know how I'm feeling. I remember after that trip, I came back and I was like, these people are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. The trip was surreal. Everything around it just felt so amazing. I think it just allowed me to want more from that.
Nice.
How can I create that feeling again and again and again through creation? Seeing what you had done with the club from nothing to create those feelings was anything, but it was so inspiring. So I think a huge part of me was like, how do we do this more? How do we lean into this more? How do we grow this feeling? I think that's what we're trying to do with this as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm beyond proud of what and now we and the other ambassadors have done with and are doing with the Monday Mood Booster Run Club, and just
of course, TM.
Seeing those people gel together and look after each other and be amazing human beings for one another.
It's beautiful,
it's
isn't
just the most wonderful thing and experience.
It's lovely.
Very proud of myself and all of us. Not just the ambassadors, the whole club, to be honest. But if it weren't for me, and let me sit with that for a moment, if it weren't for me and my doing, it wouldn't be there. So that's really cool. And if it weren't for you and how you are, you wouldn't also be there, and then continuing that on as an ambassador and everything else. So
true. So
let's internalize those things. It's really cool stuff.
So that leads us to the present day.
Nice.
Where we are now.
Well,
that's a bit of me.
It was lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too, man.
That's a great. I thank you for that. I learned a lot, actually. I know we know each other very well, but
we do.
Many things I didn't know, and I'm sure the listeners will also have very much enjoyed all of that. So thank you for sharing.
No worries.
I appreciate that. I feel like we did well to introduce ourselves there, and I know the listeners, especially from their feedback, said they're just really excited to see what we're actually going to talk about. And from next week, we will be very much just diving straight into our topics, our weekly topics, whatever it will be. So thank you for sitting with us as we're sort of just rightly so, and we wanted to do that, introducing this podcast and ourselves and things. I think just before we close, as we do every week, and as we mentioned at the beginning, we have a weekly mood boost individually.
We do.
It's not just our mood boost. We want everyone to let us know. So we put a story out on our social media every Tuesday morning where you can reply to the story and let us know your weekly mood boost. You can put something in the comments of one of our posts or on the YouTube video of the podcast, for example. We're checking all of these platforms, on TikTok as well, but there is the specific one on the Instagram story on Tuesday mornings. We just, like I'm reiterating without sort of honing on about it or banging on about it, we just want to celebrate little wins and boost our moods. And when our friends and our communities win, that we win, and when we win individually, we also win. As in with each other. So like I say, yes, you've got a new job, you've just got engaged, you've just had your first child, amazing, life-affirming stuff. That is a huge win, and we'd love to celebrate that, but we also want to celebrate you smelling a nice coffee, you seeing the sun this morning, or whatever it is. They're all important and all valid, and maintain in the day-to-day life, we don't have those huge highs, and that's why it's lovely to focus on those small little moments. So, do you have your one?
I do. There are... Can I say two, or is it two?
Yeah, so you're going to do Amy's.
And I saw Sam's as well. Did you see that one? Yeah.
I didn't see
He just posted up this morning, to be fair.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
Amy did a half marathon, which was unbelievable.
One of my colleagues, Amy,
yes,
did the Sheffield half marathon.
Was that with you? Yeah, amazing.
Was nervous about it, put a lot of work into it, and smashed it out the park.
Cracking job.
So well done, Amy.
Well done, Amy. Well done.
Congratulations.
And the second one is Sam. I just saw his message. He is over his sickness and back to sport. Huge.
Okay.
He's overcome a sickness.
Nice. That's lovely.
Yeah, he's back to it.
I also have another one. I was on the phone to my mum yesterday, and she was talking about her little wins. And for her, she saw 2 robins in the garden. Just like, she has a robin that's in her garden all the time, and then there was another one that just showed up, and it just made her really happy to see these robins just like being companions with each other and just sitting there together. And it was just like a lovely little moment that she sort of cherished in that given moment. And I thought it was a really nice example of those small little things of just noticing and being present in that moment, to notice that in the first instance, to be like, oh, those robins are having a lovely time. And letting that, and so like sinking into that and letting that be part of your day, and a lovely part of your day and her day. So that was nice to mention. We have had other ones.
Yes,
we can't, for the sake of time, we can't go through every week all of them. We see them and we love them. Please do keep sending them in, but we just have chosen a couple or a few today.
Any little win, it could be as you've just said, anything as small as smelling fresh grass, fresh cut grass. It can be anything as small as that.
Sitting in a nice vintage Italian car.
Listening to really good jazz music, buying a house, conquering the world.
Moving to West
Reinstating
London.
the Roman Empire. Oh, is that not what you were going to say? Oh, sorry, misalignment of... Anyway, I think that's a nice introduction to who we are as hosts. Any other questions, let us know.
Yeah, please
we can answer them. I think as of the next few weeks, we're just going to get straight into the other topics, which we're really interested to begin speaking about.
But
hopefully you guys know a little bit more about who we are, what the Mood Booster podcast is. Thanks for joining, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's honestly... the biggest pleasure. You can probably see in our just how we are. It's the biggest pleasure in the world, and we are so happy to be doing this and to be having you along the way and to be hearing all your feedback. So please just keep it coming. Just as a reminder, you can watch on YouTube, you can listen on Spotify, all of those different platforms where you can get your podcast. But if you wanted to watch, it is on YouTube. And we are here, our lovely faces here. So just thank you so much. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Marcus.
It's been an amazing first week.
It's been unreal, hasn't it?
Just so happy to be in this moment, whilst also excited for just where it's all gonna go. Thank you.
Wonderful.
More virtual hug. A virtual hug. Okay, you turn the thing off.
All right, you can do some ASMR. I'll say bye to the listeners. See you guys.
Bye, listeners. I'm just gonna do some ASMR while Charlie's doing the recording on. So I hope you're all doing